Well, g'day curd nerds. Today's cheese is Leicester. This is a traditional English cheese. Ingredients: 8 litres of milk, 1/8 of a teaspoon of mesophilic culture, 5 drops of annatto, half a teaspoon of liquid rennet, 2 tablespoons of salt, and 1/4 of a teaspoon of calcium chloride. Now there's the annatto there that I use, and today I used biodynamic milk, which was fabulous. So put the milk in your pot after you've sanitized all of your equipment. Now I'm adding the calcium chloride straight in there because it has been pasteurized. I need to add a little bit more soluble calcium back into the pot. I'm going to turn the heat on, and I'm going to heat that up to 30 degrees Celsius. Now that it's at 30 degrees Celsius, which is 85 Fahrenheit, I'm going to add the starter culture, and I'm going to mix that in well. So we're just going to start stirring that now. And we're going to mix the culture all the way through the milk. So you only need to stir this direct set culture for about a minute. Now we're just going to cover that just to make sure that it stays at the right temperature, 30 degrees Celsius, which is 85 Fahrenheit. We're going to let that ripen now for 45 minutes. Okay, after 45 minutes, we're now going to add the annatto colouring. Now, when it comes to annatto, this is a Leicester. This is not a Red Leicester. To make this into a Red Leicester, the only thing you have to change is the amount of annatto that you put into the milk. Now here I'm only putting 5 drops for the whole 8 litres. To make it a Red Leicester, you need to add 32 drops diluted in half a cup of water. And that will turn your curd a lovely shade of orange to red. Now I chose not to because I wasn't really fussed on a red cheese, but yeah, to make it into Red Leicester, 32 drops of annatto for a half a cup of water diluted. Now we're adding the rennet, and we're going to give that a good stir. So good up and down motion to mix the rennet all the way through. Don't mix more than a minute because the curd will start to set. So we're going to cover that again, and we're going to let that sit for 45 minutes. So we're going to cut the curd now into about 6mm pieces, which is about 1/4 of an inch, so quite small. Before we do that though, we're going to check if we've got a clean break. And yeah, the curd splits nicely there. So just an initial cut with my curd knife. And then we're going to use the curd cutter. Now I've sped this bit up, it takes a little while. There's the horizontal cut. And then we're going to quickly do the vertical cuts. And once the curd's all cut, you can leave that to heal for 5 minutes, but I've chosen not to. So we're just going to stir that now for 15 minutes gently, just making sure it stays at the target temperature of 30 degrees Celsius, which is 85 Fahrenheit. Some of the curds are a little bit big there. I'll just cut those with the spoon as I go through. So after 15 minutes, you can see the curd has shrunk a little bit. We're going to heat the curds up now over the next 30 minutes. So we're going to heat them up by 1 degree Celsius every 5 minutes. So that's 2 degrees Fahrenheit every 5 minutes for 30 minutes. So you can see I'm turning the heat on there. So make sure you stir for that 30 minutes as well. Stir it all the time. Because what you don't want is the curds matting together into a big lump at the bottom. What we're trying to do is expel as much whey as we can without breaking the structure of the curd. There we go, there's our heating process for over the 30 minutes. So keep a good eye on the temperature. You don't want it going over 35 because we've only got a mesophilic culture. You'll kill it off if you get over 38. So that's after the 30 minutes of stirring. Curd's quite small. It's a good size for a Leicester. So we're going to drain that now over on the sink. So a cheesecloth lined colander. It's all been sanitised, that whole area. So we'll just drain that through our cheesecloth. Just get every last bit out. Don't want to waste that curd. Now we're going to let this drain for 20 minutes now, just in the colander. So 20 minutes later, the curds are fairly drained. They've shrunk probably half their volume. So notice I've cleared the side of the sink there, and that's all clean as well. And we're going to lay the curd mass onto the draining board. This is the way I've done it. You can do it differently. It's just I found it very simple to do. Just spread the cheesecloth out, and you go and get a curd knife, and you cut it into 2-inch wide pieces, which is 5 centimeters. So I've just sped this bit up. So nice big slabs of curd is what we're after here. So this is the cheddaring process for anybody who's not familiar with it and maybe a little bit scared of the word. It's very easy to do. All you do is turn it. So I'm just turning it a quarter turn. And we just can pile it on top, that's fine. Now we must keep the curds warm. So what I'm going to do is I've got a pot of water over on the sink, and I'm just going to dip some cheesecloth in that just to warm it up and then lay it over the top whilst we're waiting for the curd to expel some more whey. So the curd now rests for 20 minutes. So after 20 minutes, it's shrunk a fair bit. So we just pull that off and we give it a bit of a wring out. And I'm going to warm that cloth up again after I've turned the slabs. So just turn the curd slabs again. You can stack them on top of each other. That weight adds a little bit more pressure for the curds. And they expel a bit more whey, so I'll put the cloth over the top again. And we're going to leave that for 20 minutes. So 20 minutes later, do the same process again. So we do it all up 3 times in 1 hour, which is every 20 minutes for an hour. So last turning. and we warm the cloth up and put it over. So the water's about 30 degrees Celsius. I'm just trying to keep the, because it was a very cold day. And if the curds cool down too much, you actually slow down the starter culture. It doesn't do its job properly. So now we're going to move those curds back into the pot. This is for the milling stage. We're going to mill the curds. So just throw all the slabs into your pot, and we're going to mill those into thumbnail size pieces now. And we have speedy fingers now because it took about 5 minutes to get through all of those curd slabs. So now we're going to just make sure they're all even sized. And we're going to now add our salt to the milled curds. Now we're using 2 tablespoons of cheese salt. So just sprinkle that into the curds. And we're going to mix those through well. So I mixed for about a minute and a half there. You can feel when it's all the way through. Now we're going to press the cheese. So just line your mould with a cheesecloth. It's a sanitised cheesecloth. And you can handle the curds into the mould, but I found that was going to take a little bit too long. So all I did was picked up the pot and poured them all in. Now, so I've got a nice wide-mouthed mould there, so it wasn't too much trouble. It wasn't too fiddly. Just scrape them all in there. So just fold one side over and put your follower on top and then press the cheese. Now the initial pressing is a fairly light one. It's about 7 kilograms, which is 15 pounds, and you press that for 30 minutes. So after the 30 minutes has elapsed, just drain off the excess whey there. You can see that's fairly clear, so we're doing a good job here. If your whey is really cloudy, you're actually pressing it too hard. So we're just going to remove that and we're going to flip it over. It's very delicate at the moment because it's not fully pressed, it's just formed. So just be delicate when you do this. And then pop it back into the mould. Put the follower back on. Now we're going to press it at 14 kilos or 30 pounds for 2 hours. And just let that drain on the side. So after the 2 hours, we're going to remove it from the mould once more. This is the final pressing. Now because this is a hard cheese, then we need to press it very hard. So once again, we're just going to pull that out and we're going to turn it over. See how it's shrunk a fair bit now. Most of the whey is starting to be expelled out of the curd mass. So put the follower back on again and we're going to press that at maximum pressure. So in this case, it's going to be 22 kilograms, which is about 50 pounds. For 24 hours. Now, if you've got a spring type press like mine, you're going to have to keep winding the spring to make sure it's closed at all times. I check on it about once every 4 hours. So the very next day, we're going to remove the cheese from the mould. Notice I was sanitising my hands there once again with white vinegar, so white distilled vinegar. So just take that out of the press. You'll find it's shrunk a fair bit, but Leicester is a flat style cheese. So this mould was perfect. So you can see there a beautifully formed piece of Leicester cheese. Now I'm just going to put that on our cheese mat. We're going to put a tablespoon of salt and we're going to try and rub that all over. A little bit tricky, you do get a bit of salt everywhere, but not to matter. Don't make too much of a mess. So it's just a tablespoon of cheese salt. That's all I've got there in that little bag. So I just sprinkle over the top. Get a bit of a rub. It's not very moist, which is good because it's not a moist cheese. It's fairly dry. So we're just going to get rid of a little bit more of that moisture with this salt and just pour it off in your hand and then flip it over and do the same on the other side. As I said, a little bit messy, but that's fine. I'm sure there's a better way to do this. And then just rub around the exterior on the sides. Then get rid of all the salt into the sink. Okay, and to this stage now we're going to air dry our cheese. And we just rub the excess salt off. I'm going to move that to a warm place. So it's going to be about 21 degrees, air dry it at room temperature until it's touch dry. So after about the first hour or two, I just wipe that salt off. So there it is after it's been air dried. Now we're going to wax or vac pack that and then mature it at 13 degrees Celsius, which is 55 Fahrenheit, for 2 to 4 months. Now you can leave it for up to 9 months and it does taste amazing. So like I said, you can make it a lot darker by adding more annatto. Well, thanks for watching the video tutorial. You can pick up the kit over at littlegreenworkshops.com.au. Thanks for watching, Curds, and we'll see you next time.